Welcome to the Ramen Bowl, everybody. Welcome to the Ramen Bowl, where every week there's a new flavor of the week. And this week's flavor is Twisted Tie. Ever wonder what it's like to get wrapped up in rope? Thinking about getting tied up? It's really hard to come up with these titles, and I want you to know that I come up with these titles while I've already smoked weed. I have come up with these episode titles while high. So I would love to introduce Silver Rain, everybody. This is a local femdom in the lifestyle community, and honestly, they are so much more. They're an amazing rope enthusiast, and I can't help but admire their work. They're an instructor, a teacher, a community leader, and a well of knowledge in rope play. I swear, I've learned so much about rope just because we've had conversation, just talking about rope. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and talk about a little bit about who you are in the community. I know.
That's scary.
It's a scary topic.
It actually is, because I can be so many different things, so many different facets on different days. Depending on how toppy I feel or how dommy I feel. Been in the local community for roughly, I think it's been about 9 years now.
Oh.
Which is funny because nobody really realizes that.
I did not know.
I was a wallflower.
Really?
I held back, hung back, watched everything, everybody, and just kind of decided where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, and where I fit into the fold and where I didn't. And from there, it was just kind of a steamroller effect. Like, once I made a presence known, it just blossomed.
Because you are well known.
I am.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny that I am, because I never want to be the center of attention.
Really?
I love being the person behind the curtains, pulling the strings, but I don't like to be that upfront face. But I tend to naturally fall into that role.
Leadership? Tend to steer towards leadership. I get that. Yeah. I see that a lot in you. I do.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to thank you so much for coming on my little podcast right now. I'm currently doing a series called Kink and Chemo on the Ramen Bowl, where I'm sharing my journey through kink and also talking about my process of going through chemo. But I'm also using this opportunity to educate people who are maybe not as familiar with kink or like anything like that. Vanilla people, basically.
Yeah.
Just who wanted to learn. And you know how vanilla people always have questions about stuff. And I brought you on today because I really wanted to talk about the basics and the core of rope play. I think a lot of people, like vanilla people, they're familiar with like the idea of being tied up and like things like that. They've seen like, 50 Shades of Grey and stuff like that. But it's really, I've learned that it's so much more expansive.
There's a whole huge subculture to it.
Yeah.
It goes beyond the bedroom play. For me, it's art, it's expression, it's technical, it's advancement. I don't like to sit still. I don't like things that I can master easily. Neurospicy. So I need something that's going to consistently challenge me, and rope is one of those things that I've been able to just continually grow no matter what. It could be the same tie that I'm tying, but if I put it on one body type versus another, their medical issues or sensory issues, it's different every single time, even though it's the same exact tie.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What was your first experience with rope like?
I was at a local club that I frequented, and I had seen like some of the rope play going on, but there was one particular person there that he was, for lack of better terms, a rope dispenser that night. And we can go into that part later. But I was watching very intently. I was watching the movements, the flow, the joy that the people were experiencing, the joy on his face when he was giving that experience. And I recognized all of that joy is just from different aspects of my kingdom.
Yeah.
And he turns at me and goes, "You want to give it a try?" I'm like, "Sure. Why not?" This man put an insane amount of rope on me because I'm a big girl.
Right.
There's no lie. I'm 6 foot tall. I think I was like I'm actually about the size that I was then. I was, pushing 270, and just, I'm a fluffy kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's all there is to it. And he was concerned about a typical tie cutting in too much. So instead of a wrap around my leg this wide, we had a wrap around my leg this wide.
Wow.
And he's like, and of course we talked and negotiated beforehand, but he put a large amount of rope on my chest, and basically I got to sit up in a suspension.
Wow.
And I got to spin. Well, anybody that is very familiar with neurospicy people, some of us tend to stem in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
Spinning was my thing as a kid.
Oh.
And instant love.
That connection right there.
Yeah.
I think there's a very large connection between like the kink that you enjoy and the kind of neurodivergency you have.
Yes.
Like it's very closely related.
Yes.
So I remember you told me that your first experiences with like rope were bottoming.
Yes.
Well, how did that transition into topping for you?
I was voluntold.
You weren't told that you're gonna top for this.
So literally, so it was probably about a 2-month span that you should really learn how to tie. You should really learn how to tie. I think you'd be good at it. And then one day, this individual goes, "You're going to learn how to tie."
Oh, okay.
I was literally voluntold.
That you didn't have a choice. Okay, yeah.
Well, I mean, I obviously had a choice, but thinking about it, I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
So I talked to my husband about it, and I'm like, I think I want to do this. I see it all the time. I bottomed. I did photography for rope classes.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yeah. I was completely involved. Hell, I even baked everything for the goodies for when everybody was done, so that they had little sweet treats.
Wow.
Like I'm a total mama hen, or I think now I call it a daddy cock because I
love it. Oh my God, it's a daddy cock.
Well, because I had the hysterectomy, so we were joking about I no longer have eggs.
That's hilarious.
Trying to make the best of a really kind of messed up situation.
Yeah.
But no, like I was really immersed in it. And when I was talking to my husband, I'm like, I think I really, really want to do this.
Yeah.
But he also knows me that I will start something, maybe make it 3 months, and never touch it again. So,
but it's been 9 years.
Well, so the rope part was 6 years ago.
Really?
And that's when I started with rope. I've tied since. So my first rope kit, my husband bought for me for Christmas.
Oh.
And so I received my first rope kit December 25th of 2019.
That's so special.
And then the world imploded.
Oh, yeah.
I had nobody to learn on. I had one person that would come over occasionally.
Yeah.
That they were comfortable with coming out of the household into my household.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, there was no one.
Were you doing like a lot of like self-tying? Yeah, I figured.
That's how I learned. Wasn't a lot of classes going on, especially at the very beginning of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So it was basically going off of recall of the ties that I'd seen on myself and the ties that I'd seen other people do, and mimicking that on me and figuring out what felt right and what didn't.
Gotcha. So
I had the ultimate crash course.
So would you say that you enjoy topping or bottoming more for rope?
Topping, definitely. Bottoming is totally different for me for rope.
Yeah.
I'll bottom for education and a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as for myself, bottoming it's a twofold thing. So if I am self-suspending,
Mm-hmm.
that is, I need to play. I need to get out whatever energy is pent up in me.
Yeah.
It's very dynamic type rope. I'm spinning, twisting, moving. But when I bottom for someone else, it's because I want to be static. I want to be bound so tight that's like a hug that I can't escape. I don't want to move, because if I can move, my mind doesn't shut off.
Yeah.
So it's that moment where it's that switch that I can just exist.
I think that was the allure for me with the rope, is that like that tightness. It is almost like finally my mind is at ease.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, like something has turned off. I'm hugged. I'm close.
Yes.
And that's what I got from it.
Well, and so, that feeling, we'll go back to, we'll go to Temple Grandin. Temple Grandin built that squeeze machine to mimic a hug without people touching. It's very similar for me. Being bound up that type is like a hug when I don't want to be touched.
Yeah.
Because I do have a lot of spatial issues and for like people touching me, and like once I know somebody and I'm pretty comfortable with them, most of the time I'm okay with a hug.
Yeah.
But there's other times it's like nope.
Yeah.
And so I endure the rope being applied, but once I go up and I have everything just squeezing and closing in on me, and I can't move, I'm gone.
Release.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a fabulous experience for myself.
Yeah. So let's say you have like a newbie coming in and they're interested in rope.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say are some like good baby steps to take?
I'm going to plug a website that I have absolutely nothing to do with. Rope 365.
I've heard that, yeah.
It has a lot of good information about nerves. It has a lot of good information about how ties are tied. They have some of the best pictorial instructions I've ever seen when it comes to rope.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I need to check that out. I have heard Rope 365.
Yeah.
So I was actually going to ask you, what resources were you aware of for beginners? Like Rope 365, I know is one of them. We have a lot of classes that you can find in the community, if you can find them. But I know you teach a ton of things.
Yes.
a myriad of things. So you are a resource. What are some of the people that you admire in the rope community?
So they're no longer local. They moved to Colorado, but one of the folks that I admire was Chancellor 22. Chance was my rope top. She started tying, I think it's been about 11 years ago or so now. And it was at a time where the rope community scene was much different.
Yeah.
There were a handful of female rope tops, but typically, it was at the other side. Yeah. That pretty much kind of had a control from what I understand. Another person is actually Blaze. Master Blaze, as he is now titled.
We're going to talk about that because I actually don't know how you get that title, but we're going to talk about it.
Yes, we can. But he does his own thing. Mm-hmm. He goes for what he likes, and he has a very different style about him. He was the one that voluntold me. But, he's a very gruff person on the outside, but he does try to be conscientious about safety and what the bottom is experiencing, or at least my experience. But again, it's dom to dom kind of thing, so could be a little different for others. Your mileage may vary.
Dom to dom is a very different kind of communication.
Well, it is, and so if I go up and so I don't, something doesn't quite feel right, he is very receptive to, and not to say that he's not with other folks that are going up in rope with him. But we have a very different communication style that because we both rope top, if I say, okay, third rope down, it needs to go up 1/4 of an inch, I can give very, very specifics on what I need while I'm up in the air. And then once we get that ideal situation, I'm just gone.
Oh, that's incredible.
So it's not topping from the bottom. It's literally, I'm looking out for my well-being and what I need. So I'm able to articulate that a little clearer than most.
Right.
And he's very receptive to that because he doesn't feel like I'm trying to control what's going on. I just need it to be right for me.
Right.
So I admire him for being able to have that communication with me.
That's awesome. Now, tops they're so skilled, and they have a lot of precautions that they have to be aware of, and that's like definitely one of the being knowledgeable of those things makes you a better bottom for just about any kind of play. What are some of the things that you consider as a top when you are, looking at the person that you are about to top for?
So we've got 2 different types of scenarios that could end up coming up. A planned session or pickup.
Oh yeah, pickup.
So
play.
Pickup play is something a little different. It's literally just kind of a mash unit negotiation and talking through things. Where if I'm planning something, it's typically more elaborate. I have more time to talk to the bottom, figure out fears, phobias, medical conditions, medications. Prior injuries, surgeries. There's a whole gambit that I go through. But I want to make sure that, one, if there's something that is about them that I'm not familiar with, I can try to educate myself ahead of time on. So if somebody's on a medication I'm not familiar with, I actually go and research what the side effects are. Yeah. Because I want to make sure that it's not going to cause them to have low blood pressure. You get low blood pressure while you're up in a suspension. There's a high possibility of passing out. So there's a lot of things. It can be very dangerous, but it can also be wonderfully releasing while you're being bound.
I don't think people realize that, with rope, there is a danger that comes to it. You're not just tying people up all willy-nilly. There's a lot to consider. People could pass out. People the straining of muscles that happen. Bottoming could happen, but also for the tops too. Yeah. Tops go through a lot just in general.
So I tore my rotator cuff in a tie.
Really?
Yes.
Topping?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. And bless her heart, because she's a big girl like me, she thought it was because of her weight. And I'm like, absolutely not. And I had to reassure her over and over and over. I said it was a bonehead move on my part. I had all of her weight actually in my left hand because I'm trying to lift her hips up. And the suspension apparatus that I use inside my house, it's a lot lower than I would prefer because I'm tall, 6 foot tall. I'm holding her weight in one side, and so there's a lot, and I just picked her up like this on my left side. I've got slack in my line. So instead of
First of all, strong move on your part. That is a power move.
Oh, it was. But instead of just reaching up and pulling the line down, I went out like this. And I tore back here. So, there's a lot of dangers for the top as well. And actually, it's funny because my muscle just twitched.
As a reminder.
Yes. I have a lot of swelling that happens from that shoulder injury. I get a lot of swelling and muscle twitches and twinges in the back portion here. I forgot the muscle name. So, yeah.
So if you were talking to a newbie, what were some things that you would tell them to be cautious of when playing with rope?
So one thing is I want them to poke on themselves to figure out where their pressure points are because I don't want to put the rope there.
That's new. I've never heard that. Okay.
Now, if it's pickup, I actually tell them, I'm like, hey, this is going to be very clinical, but I need to fill you up. And they're like, and I'm like, I need to poke in on certain areas because I need to see where your pressure points are, because we're not after that type of play.
Mm-hmm.
We're not out to torment you. I'm here to give you a pleasurable experience and a comfortable experience.
Yeah.
So I need to see where I call them hot spots. And on the inside of the thigh, there are several areas that somebody can have those pressure points in.
Mm.
So I'll dig looking for them. And it's funny because you always know when you hit them, you're like, ah!
I can tell those. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's one of the big things, is for them to know their own pressure points, but also to understand what their flexibility is.
Okay.
I can't bend backwards. I can't.
Same.
And which is funny, as a kid, I was super, super, super bendy, flexible. You could literally at one point both my feet could fit behind my head. That was how flexible I was, but I could also do a lot of stuff going backwards.
Yeah.
I can't do that now. I've got back injuries and so on and so forth. So I want people to be aware of their flexibility, because if they could just bring me a picture and say, I want to look like this, well, I hate to say it, but can you get in that position?
Yeah.
Because we could severely hurt you if you can't go in that position. And hydration. They need to know about hydration.
Mm-hmm.
We sweat a lot, most of us. Not so much me, but most of us sweat quite a bit when we're doing rope.
Small technical difficulty. It's okay. We're back. So yeah, about your rope style. Okay, so how would you describe your own personal rope style?
So it's very Western. It's organic. I don't do a lot of patterns with those that I've tied with frequently. It's I want to know what they want to achieve, how they want to feel, what shapes, where they want to go with it, and I build something on the fly for them.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's very servicey type oriented topping.
Oh, that's cute. Okay, service led. Okay.
Yeah, it very much is. But I get enjoyment out of that because I like to make sure that they enjoy their interaction, because obviously I want them to come back. Yeah.
I see I noticed with rope tops, the most part that they enjoy is seeing their bottom enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
That's like the best part for them.
Yeah. And I'm definitely a photo hound. I love the photos, not only for the aesthetics, but I actually like to use them to go back to pick apart my ties.
Really?
Because I do a lot of organic flow. Mm-hmm. It's taking the knowledge of the knots and just kind of throwing it on the body, So if there's something that I could have done better, I might be able to see if, a rope pulled up much higher than the rest. Well, that's an issue because that can cause something to be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Well, what can I do in the future to keep that from happening? Well, I need to be able to pull it up, look at those pictures, and see what happened and try to pick it apart.
So you're kind of like studying them like your own photos, like case files.
Oh, like case files, or go to the whole football analogy, where the football players study their opponents and watch the game plays, and then they watch the gameplay afterwards to pick apart their own performance. It's very much that mentality.
Yeah,
it's just not a game for me. This is somebody's comfort, their well-being, that I want to make sure that I'm on top of it as much as I possibly can.
Awesome. So what are some things that will typically catch you doing with rope?
Suspension is like...
I love suspension.
I love it, but I also preach that it's not about suspension always. Mm-hmm. Because so many want to go straight for suspension. I adore floor rope.
Really?
It's more connective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do a lot of floor rope with a lot of folks because for me it is very connective.
It's very
intimate. And So I tend to shy away from that with people that are, especially pickup stuff. Oh, you want to suspend? Great. I can tie you clinically. I don't have to be really in your bubble at all. I can put you up. I can be happy watching you see, go through the emotions of your experience, and then we're done. But, my row bottoms, we love to do floor work together.
Yeah.
And because I can be up in their space, I can be personal with them. And that's not something a lot of people see of me.
Yeah. So what are some things that you consider to be your signature silver style? It's take 3. Whoops. Okay, so what I was asking you, right. Okay, so what would you say is your signature silver style?
I don't know if we got the reaction on the last part, so I'm not going to fake it though this time. So, and just to put this out here, I don't know any of the questions ahead of time. I didn't want to know the questions because I wanted to be able to provide an authentic moment between you and I. So I was actually but if I have to say anything, it's the amount of diamonds in my ties that I use. And when I say diamonds, it's take 4.
Take 4. Oh my God. Okay, so the diamonds.
Actually, do we need to bump out just a little bit here? Just so I can actually sit up. Okay, well, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
We're going to get in here cozy. So diamonds. There is a tie that, and it is one of the patterns, but most people tend to only do like to a certain point. And so it's he/she is the term that is used typically, meaning diamonds, basically. From what I'm told, because it kind of goes back to the whole Mitsubishi 3 diamonds. So I'm assuming it's correct. I have done some research and it seems to line up, but anyways, I am known for making a full dress out of it.
Oh.
And making it very suspension worthy from points that it typically wouldn't be suspension worthy from. So I modified what I was taught to make it better and more comfortable for the bottom if they wanted to go suspending in it.
Wow.
And I self-tied as well, which is a feat because the whole spine of the tie, the where all of the lock-offs are straight down the back. So I'm tying this behind my back.
Wow.
One-handed.
Oh, that's talented. Yeah.
Non-dominant hand.
Because, that's talented. That's
because
cool.
my right arm can't reach back there.
No, that's cool. That's really cool.
I'm going to slide it over this way because I'm a little bit taller.
So, what are some of your favorite rope moments or accomplishments?
Ooh, can we include the dumbest moment in there too?
Sure, let's do it.
Because, and I joke and say the dumbest moment, we went in fully prepared, but not prepared. One of my rope bottoms, one of the longest tying partners that I've had, we went up to the Boneyard Beach on Tablet Island, and all of the big driftwood trees that are up there, and we did a tie on one of them. Where we wanted to go, it wasn't available. There was too many cars. We couldn't park, and you can't park in the grass. So we went on up a ways. We ended up walking, I think it was like over a mile, to find the perfect tree. Completely prepared for everything except for the tide. I'm terrified of water. Oh. Absolutely terrified of water that I cannot see through. And we're in the middle of this tie. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I'm feeling so proud of myself, but at the same time, I'm scared shitless. Just to put it simply. Yeah. The water had started out at my ankles, and by the time we were taking photos, the water was at my thigh, mid-thigh. Wow. And I'm literally going through a panic attack, and this is why I would not take any type of newbie to this situation because of the fact that there's too many elements that I can't control. I went with a long-time trusted partner that we know each other very well. We had discussed and planned. And, unfortunately, we didn't take into account the title charts, which kills me because I'm a fisherman as well. You would have thought I would have thought about it, but I didn't. But it's my proudest moment because I actually did something that I really, really wanted to do. I somewhat overcame some fears. Yeah. I'm still terrified of the water I can't see through. But it helped push me, and she helped push me. Yeah. And it's very different when you're dominant and you're frozen in a moment and you can't do anything because you shut down. Yeah. My bottom took charge and walked me through how to bring her down the rest of the way because I just was frozen in fear. So it was very humbling at the same time that I'm not Superwoman. I'm not Superman. I'm fallible just like anyone else. But we had enough wherewithal to cover all of the possibilities as far as fears, phobias, and that's why I asked for fears and phobias. I've asked for it for a very long time. When I work with somebody, I knew her fears, she knew mine. Yeah. I always communicate mine because I always tell people, look, if a spider drops down out of the ceiling while I'm tying you, I'm going to piss myself and run like a little girl.
It's not helping you there.
No, there isn't. But it was a huge accomplishment. One, because I've always wanted to go to this beach to do the ties. Yeah. Two, I really pushed through and did something that terrified me, even though I had to have help. Yeah. And I'm just proud of myself because, I made it through it.
That's incredible, honestly.
And things can go wrong. And that's why rope itself is dangerous. Then you throw in environmental stuff. Yeah. It's a whole nother ballgame. So it also helped me learn that I need to really, really, really think about situational things. And I think about a lot of things. But we also didn't plan on tying on a tree that was over the water. We had planned on tying on a tree that was on the beach, away from the water. Yeah. So it did also teach me to say, sometimes maybe now is not the right time. But we were gun home.
You were itching to tie.
Yeah. But that's my proudest moment, I think. That's awesome. And I don't my rope bottom anyway.
So what are some of your favorite ties to do?
My favorite ties. So do we want to go into the torment style?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, because that's not something that we've talked about just yet, because we've talked a lot about comfy rope. Yes. And so I do have some bottoms that I work with that do enjoy somewhat more pain. So we have to think about doing pain comfortably and safely.
One of my favorite things to talk about is an impact bottom.
Yeah. But there's one tie in particular that I do like to use a lot, and it's called a Guatemalan calf tie. So basically it compresses the calf muscle in place. And then if you have them flex their toes, it tightens. So now, if you want to be nice, my nice, not their nice, then you have them walk around for a while in that tie.
Interesting.
So there is that aspect of, I'm a little sadistic and I like that type of play, but only specific circumstances. That's one of my favorite ties, but also the he-she tie is another. Aesthetically, I love face rope.
Really?
Yes.
Face rope that's not something I've explored a lot.
It's so much fun. To know that I have taken away my bottom's vision and ability to speak.
Interesting.
Because we're doing gags and the whole 9 yards with rope.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then all they have, if they're lucky, they know how to do some sign language, and they just tell me off. And then, if I take away 2 senses, I don't take away the third. So if I take away sight and speech, then I don't take away hands, because there's always I'll give them something to drop if they want out now. That's their red. That's their I'm done.
Yeah.
So we try to think of the different things that could happen and be prepared.
Okay, that's smart. So with rope, what are some of the classes that you teach now?
So I kind of stepped back from teaching a lot of rope. I've been primarily focused on the fundraisers that are rope centric, but I typically do teach a lot of entry level stuff, but then I also teach the organic rope flow. So we talk about in the very beginning the knots themselves, how and why they work, and how to apply them without following a pattern. I want rope individuals to think about why they're using something and adjust to it, because that's what they were told to do.
Yeah.
I want them to have the technical skills that I figured out.
Awesome, yeah. So if people wanted to know more about rope from you, or just wanted to pick your brain for like more information, what's the best way that people can get to you?
I do have StAugustineKink.com, StAugustineKink.com. I do have a rope page on there. I believe it's published at the moment, because I did take a step back with the hysterectomy and everything, so I had to give myself time to heal.
Right.
Which I'm really behind on my own website. But I have an email address on there that there's a email me, contact me section, and so I try to keep an eye on that email in case anybody has any questions. I can point them to instructors that I would absolutely endorse for them to go learn from. There are one-off cases where somebody will say, XYZ, I would really prefer to learn from you. Can we set up some private lessons? I'm down for private lessons.
Oh,
they're a little more expensive because
they're private, yeah.
they're private, but also I'm giving a lot of intensive instruction. Whereas general classes, when you have 10, 12 people, it tends to be a little spread out. So you don't get as much one-on-one. So you're paying for the knowledge, the time, and the extra that goes along with it.
Got you.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to thank you so much for being here and taking time to record on my silly little show here. I have so much admiration for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on it.
Thank you.
Please take this time to plug anything and everything you want to plug if you have it. Other than that, this is Silver Rain, you guys.
Plugging. Oh, wow. So Women's Only Lunch Brunch, that's going to be coming back fairly soon. I'm hoping within the summer.
Nice.
It's a women's-based education for the lifestyle. We haven't determined where the munches are going to be held. I used to hold them at my house, but I'm in St. Augustine, so it's a little difficult for a lot of folks to make it down there, or they just don't want to make the drive. I get it, because I don't want to make the drive to Jack's all the time. But so that's going to be coming back around, and recently started my own leather house.
Awesome.
Hell's Fury, HEL''S, Norse goddess of the underworld.
Yes.
Yeah. So Hell's Furies is a femdom group that is basing a lot of our stuff on educating those around us, but also providing a space where femdoms that don't necessarily have just a male S-type. Some of us, I have female S-types. Others, non-binary, the gambit, the spectrum, if you will. And we wanted to be able to provide a space for those that don't fit in the old school femdom.
Makes sense.
So eventually, we're going to have more classes. We're looking at play parties,
Oh,
all
fun.
kinds of stuff
Awesome.
that is oriented around the feminine energy.
I can't wait to see what you guys do. That's going to be great.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for watching. Thank you again for coming and
Thank
being on
you.
the show and sharing all of your info and input. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, hit my line. You can hit their line. She gave me all the info. Links in the description below. If you have any questions about Kink, you can follow my Princess Insta page. Don't forget to join our Discord and come vibe with the tribe. And if you want to fight about my opinion, you are always free to do so in the comments below. Thank you again, and bye. I don't know how to stop.